Hey everybody, it's Glenda here from Sydney Glenda. I want to talk about family. And in my case, toxic, dysfunctional families. I come from one, my mother and my brother. My father was a good man. My mother, not so much. Neither was my brother. My mother died in 1980. I was 18. My father died in 2004. A year after that, or not even quite that, my brother had a heart attack. It took my sister-in-law 4 days to contact me to let me know, and that he was facing bypass surgery, quintuple, which means 5 bypasses. I went and visited him a couple of times, and then my sister-in-law told me that he was having a difficult time of it, blah, 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 and to not visit him. But talking to the nurse, I found that he was doing okay. And I spoke to my brother. And I explained to him what Jenny had told me. And I thought, fuck it, she's his wife. Anyway, I said to him, look, go home. When you get I'll leave you alone. I won't bother you. I'll ring the hospital and I'll make sure you're okay. Wait until you get settled at home and give me a call. And we'll come round and visit. That's my husband and I. Okay, no problems. More than 6 months went by and not a phone call. Finally, and yes, I could have easily made the phone call, but if you knew the history of my relationship with my brother, you would know that it was always a one-sided relationship. And after my father had died, I had to keep a promise to him that I would take care of my brother, make sure he was okay. Now, bear in mind that my brother was 6 years older than me. So it would stand to reason that the older brother would take care of the younger sister. But, yeah. He rang more than 6 months after I'd last spoken to him. And it was to let me know that they'd moved and they had a new phone number and a new address. No mention of what we discussed in hospital. So it was then that I realised that I was not important. And when you've been with someone for over 2 years, my husband, and when they send out the invitations for my niece's wedding, it's my name and partner. It was like a +1. They'd met my husband and everything. Admittedly, we weren't married, but we were a common law couple. We were living together, had been for 2 years. However difficult it was, I had to go against a promise I made to my father shortly before he died. And I walked away from the family. And I've not looked back since. I checked on my 2 nieces and nephew. Found out that they'd had children. My nephew got married, had 3 girls. My niece Perry had a boy and a girl. And my eldest niece Tara had also had a boy and a girl. She was married. My mother was verbally, mentally and physically abusive. She was emotionally disconnected from me. And my brother was both physically, mentally, verbally, and sexually abusive towards me. I could go into that, but I won't. Anyway, just recently we got word from my husband's twin sister that their older sister has terminal cancer and she's got 2 years left. Now, she has 2 young adult girls. She's married. And the message was basically that she had cancer, terminal cancer. She's been given 2 years to live, and that they didn't need or want anything from us. They just thought they'd let us know. Now, again, my husband comes from an incredibly toxic background. He always felt like he was on the outer. He had a relatively good relationship with his father, but his mother was very abusive towards him and favoured his sisters over him, just like my mother favoured my brother over me. Through many years of trying to continue the family relationship, it got to the stage where we realised we were wasting our time and our breath. 8 years ago, my husband lost contact with his daughter. It was a decision that her 17-year-old self made. Now, bear in mind that my husband was a good father. He made his mistakes, like most dads do. But it was the toxicity of his daughter's mother that was the instigator of the parting of ways. And after that, my husband fell apart. And you can't blame him, can you? He lost contact with his daughter. She chose to walk away from her father. 8 years later, we haven't heard from her. We've not spoken to her. We've not seen her. We've moved on. She's moved on. I have been following her via social media, via fake accounts, because we just want to know that she's okay. We've reached out dozens of times. Anyway, my husband's twin sister has been since gotten in contact with his daughter, her niece, and they're Facebook friends. His sister has never once tried to encourage the girl. In fact, my husband was never married to her mother. I think they had a maximum of a 2-year relationship. A child was born out of it, his daughter. His sister listed the mother of my husband's child as family. After all the problems that we've had, my husband did not handle things well. He became dependent on pain medication to the point where it was an addiction. Won't go into it. And a number of times he tried to kill himself. And you can understand why. We reached out for help. He reached out, I reached out. We wanted to connect with the family. We tried so hard to, and then of course 3 years ago, we were struggling with the prospect of homelessness. Again, we reached out for just a little bit of financial help so that we could avoid that. Long story short, basically the family didn't give a shit. They didn't give a shit that he was devastated by the loss of his daughter. They really didn't give a shit about the fact that he was suicidal. And then the older sister, she had breast cancer 2-3 years ago. Didn't even tell us. I had to confront her because I had gotten a phone call from her. She was drunk out of her mind. She was lecturing me about family and that I needed to keep in touch and let them know what's going on. Even, I did that. It was like 8-9 months, I think I kept this up, just letting them know what was going on. And twice she answered me. When I confronted her with the whole lecture about family and sticking together and so on and so forth, and how she had let down the ball, we finally find out that she's had breast cancer. And I was taken aback by it because I was surprised. And I said to her, you talk about family, sticking together and helping each other through tough times. That's what we talked about on the phone that one time. Why didn't you call your brother when you had breast cancer? When you were going through all of this? Why didn't you let him know? We would have been right there on your doorstep to help you through it. And I said, look, I've had a breast lump, 2 breast lumps. My mother had breast cancer. She went through what this young woman had gone, this sister-in-law of mine was going through. And we could have supported her. We could have helped her. Even if it just, popped around once a week just to check on her, or a phone call just to see how things were going, or a lift to hospital, or appointments, or we could have been there for something. No, not a thing. I got verbally abused by his sister. The older sister is an alcoholic. His twin sister is a drug addict and also drug and alcohol dependent. We tried to extend an olive branch time and time again, and yet we were never met in the middle. They never made an effort. And now we get this message that the older sister has terminal cancer. My husband's not 100% sure it's real, but he wasn't sure about the whole breast cancer thing either. That could be just because of the history of lying in the family, or it could just be a state of denial for him. I don't know. We have made a decision to stay away because as part of all of this family history, his twin sister's husband, who we've never met, decided that he was going to ring up my husband, verbally abuse him, and physically threaten him. All because we'd upset his wife. The fact that we were reaching out for help, we didn't know what we were going to do. We thought we were going to end up living in our van. Had nothing to do with it. She also then, 6 months after we tried to reach out, actually it was more like a year, we tried to reach out for help when he was really in the throes of his drug dependency. Six months after that, his twin sister sent the police around doing a welfare check. Actually, it was probably more like a year. His twin sister has 2 girls. We know the name of the eldest one. The younger one, we didn't even know she'd been born. when we still to this day don't know what her name is. And we've asked both sisters and neither one of them have told us. So like I said, with all this going on, we've decided that we're going to block them. Because we know that if we stepped into the picture to try and support the family, to help his older sister through this tough time, that it would be seen as us trying to stir up trouble. But by stepping back and staying away and cutting ties, we are also going to be made out to be the bad guy. And both my husband and I, we've managed to get through a lot of really, really tough times by ourselves without their help. And we've always been made to be the bad guy in all the situations. And a lot of people will think, oh, but they're family. Doesn't make any difference. I have friends that I consider more family than our actual blood relatives. My own blood-related brother sexually molested me when I was a little girl. My own blood-related mother beat the hell out of me, verbally abused me, mentally abused me, physically abused me. Couldn't imagine being told that you were an accident, an unwanted pregnancy, and that you're a pest and a nuisance. So, unfortunately, this whole situation has brought up a lot of painful memories for me. Losing my own mother because she had breast cancer and then terminal cancer. And how I was never emotionally able to connect with my mother in spite of especially my best efforts when she got sick. We're not welcome around them. If this indeed is the case that she is dying, and I'm going to keep an eye on, and I'm going to keep a channel of communication open so that if/when this happens, they have a way of communicating with us. We will find out if she's buried or she's cremated and they've scattered ashes, and we will pay her our respects in our own way and in our own time. We will not be attending her funeral. We would like to be there for their 2 daughters, my husband's 2 nieces. Admittedly, they're adults now, but they're young adults. We would like to be there to support them because I know how these girls are going to feel. I know what their family is going to be going through. And terminal cancer is not easy. It's not easy for the patients or the patient, and it's definitely not easy for the family, because this is something I learned from my own personal experience. The family is in limbo until either the patient recovers or until they pass. And it's not a great place to be, because you want so much to help the person, to take away their pain, to be there for them, to help them as much as you can. But there's nothing you can do. There's there's a sense of hopelessness. And that, I think, is the hardest part. So like I said, I'll keep an eye out and check out for death notices, etc. And like I said, if we can find out where / she's buried or cremated and her ashes have been scattered, then we will pay our own respects in our own way. And besides, I don't want to be around a human being, namely his twin sister's husband, who has physically threatened harm on my husband. I don't want to be a part of that, and neither does he. We are the scapegoats, the punching bags, the black sheep, the bad guys in our own respective families. We're the ones that saw through the bullshit and we don't get caught up in it anymore. And if we have to take on our shoulders the role of the bad guys so they can feel better about themselves, then fine. But like I said, I'm trying to deal with my own personal emotions in regards to how this is familiar to me, whilst supporting my husband through this. Anyway, family isn't about blood. It's about who sticks around, who's there through the tough times as well as the good times. And whilst we would like to be there and support her, and especially support her girls, we're not welcome, and we are not going to be the brunt of judgment and verbal abuse, which will only create further stress and upset in this situation. So we're going to walk away. We're going to stay away. Anyway, I hope this has helped everybody. And I'll catch you later. Bye.